All right, good morning. Morning. How's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Forex Daily Analysis. This last day of September, the year of our Lord 2024. Hope you're well. Hope you had a good weekend and a restful weekend. But we're really glad that you could join us. For the sake of guys who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the Forex Daily Analysis. We do this every morning, Monday to Friday. So feel free to join us with the same link you did use to join us for today's session, and you will find us here. Of course, that goes out to the guys who are joining us here on Zoom. Of course, for the guys who are joining us on YouTube, you can definitely stream in at any time. But of course, we're always live and direct at 9 a.m. East African time. So John is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So we also do have Mitch here. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box, which will definitely be getting back to you. But I will also be looking at the questions more specifically in the Q&A section towards the very tail end of this webinar. So we're going to jump straight into it. And apologies for starting off a couple of minutes late. There were a number of GBP fundamentals that just came out right now. So we did need to make some alterations on our watch list. So you do know we always want to give you the right information. So that's the reason why we're a bit late. But since we're here, we can even start off by looking at the fundamentals. So we've already had the GBPs, quite a number of them out. We'll be expecting some CHF coming out in a bit. So you can see in about 46 minutes, some euros coming out later on during the US. And you also can see that we have some PMIs, Chicago PMIs for the USD coming out later on. So we will be hopefully seeing some movement on the charts, but already the charts have already started moving, more specifically on the AUDs and the NZDs, but we will be having a look at that. So this is what the watch list was looking like on Friday in comparison to today. So we have done some alterations right there. So you can see the GBP moving to the sell side of things. So you also can see that the euro and the yen have also switched sides. So we'll be waiting to see, and also the Swiss franc, to see how things end up transpiring on that front. So we'll start off by doing a quick recap of the currency pairs that we did have on Friday, what happened, what can we learn from them, and then move on to the currency pairs that we do have today. So starting off here, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Now for this one, on Friday, we were ideally trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. But remember, these ones fell off even when we were here in this particular session, when the strength on the yens really started to show. And of course, once the market breached beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately, there was definitely no trade for us on that one. So for that one, unfortunately, not really something that we'll be trying to trade today. Remember, the yen and the New Zealand dollar, as well as the Australian dollar, are on the same side of things. So we don't mix and match things up that are on the same side. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, also we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. That was the plan before this did end up showing up. And you can see that immediately the market broke beneath that region to the downside. Unfortunately, that one did end up falling off our watch list. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. For this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You clearly can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And also an illustration of maybe what to expect, because on Friday morning, price was somewhere within this region, and we did want to either see the market break to the upside or the market coming back in within this region here. And you can see that the market did actually come back in within this region, although it just came shy of that area, tapped within this area quite fast. But it seems that there was some sort of an SNR that was holding here. And even today during the Asian session, you can see that the market is pushing itself off this region to the upside. But not really a currency pair that we'll be trying to see whether we can trade. Reason being, of course, the New Zealand dollar and the Swiss franc, they're both on the same side of things. And also considering the fact that both are showing strength, that's the reason why you're seeing that this one is also in some sort of a range. So you never really know, could actually end up getting stuck in that range. So it's not really something that we want to sign up for. So you can see that also this one, it's also in some sort of a range, which tells you that the Australian dollar and the Swiss franc, they're definitely fighting. So not really something that we want to get into. But on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Clearly can't see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So Friday morning price was here. We did want to see the market break to the upside and hold above that. It couldn't, came back in within here. you can see that the market did at least do some nice turnaround, within this region right here. The market went to the downside, definitely incited, some sellers to really start coming into the market. Market came back in, held within there. You can see that off that region, the market did actually take off to the upside, so at around 430. So you can see the rollover phase. And it's something that we do keep on pointing out, especially if you can get something that you can read and a pullback that you can read, then definitely you can actually end up getting some really good trading opportunities. So that's pretty much it for the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. At least one good buy there, but unfortunately today, not really a currency pair we'll be trying to trade. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. For this one, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities on Friday. I can see the three regions that I had pointed out. Friday morning, when we were still here, the euros did show some weakness, and this one did actually end up coming down till within here, definitely stopping out so many buyers, were hitting buys within there. Sellers came down. Wasn't surprised because it's more or less the same sellers. These sellers right here, attempting to break their previous record, they couldn't, and you can see that the market did actually end up turning off this region. This was at around 10. Which was during the London market open. Market went to the upside, and you can see that at 3, price was at this other support region right here. So this one did end up giving some 2 buys, although a bit tricky in terms of how to go about them. But at least the market did move to the upside. But knowing that the market is going to do something and actually getting the trade are 2 different things. So moving on into the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to expect. The euros showed weakness. You can also see on this one as well. The market just came back in, bounced off this region right here. Similar situation with what we've seen on the euro against the USD. So you can see that the market came down around 10. This was during the London market open, back within some area of support. Could have been a bit hard to grab that, especially when you're seeing that the opposite party is really coming at you, this aggressively, and you really wouldn't have known if the market was actually going to turn off this region, but it did. And you can see that at least within this region at around 3, during the US session, the market also pushed to the upside. So something similar to what we've seen on the euro against the US dollar, but unfortunately not really a currency pair we'll be trying to trade today. So the next one, the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can clearly see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So Friday morning, price was somewhere within here. So you can see that at around 9, 10, price was here. I did point out that the best area to look for the buying opportunities was down here. The market came down. I had even illustrated what to expect. Maybe the market might spike down, incite some people, to actually start looking for the sells, but you really needed to keep your eye on this buyer right here, who had pushed the market up. Most probably they were going to come back in, and that's what we were expecting. So you can see that the market came back in, held within there. We did attempt buys off this region at around 3. You can see that the market did actually end up coming up, till that region where we had pointed out. But unfortunately, not really a currency pair we'll be trying to trade. So last but not least, for review, we do have the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one on Friday, trying to see whether we could get buys. You can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. And on Friday morning, price was here. So you can see that at around 9:30, 10, price was here. Wasn't a good time to look for the sells, for the buys. And you can see that there was this region right here that we had pointed out, and the market did actually come back in within this region, during the London market open, trying to really leverage on these big boys who are sitting somewhere within here. And you can see that they did push the market to the upside. But unfortunately, when it broke to the upside within here, unfortunately, it couldn't sustain to the upside. But unfortunately, or fortunately for us, not really a currency pair we will be trying to trade today. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs that we did have on Friday. So, of course, today being a Monday, we don't really showcase screenshots, but feel free to send them in to us. We're happy when we always see screenshots from you guys, and really to see what you guys are up to on the chat. So if you do get any screenshots, feel free to send them in to us. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp. Our contact details are there on the chat box. So moving on and shifting gears into matters today. So you can see the watch list there. Hopefully you've taken note of that. So we will be mixing and matching up the sells versus the buys. So we will be doing or looking at the USDs versus all the currency pairs on the buy side, the cards, the euros, then the Great British Pound pairs, and then finish off with the indices and the commodities. So the first one off the line, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, Also, a currency pair that we did have on Friday, and we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out right here. And on Friday, we just go back to a time like this. Price was somewhere within this region, just coming up. We're expecting maybe the market was going to come back in within this region. Unfortunately, it didn't. And you can see that the market broke to the upside and continued to rally up. So it's like the buyers just started off real slow. You'd have expected that maybe the sellers were going to react, but all of a sudden you can see that they really picked up a lot of steam, once they did actually end up breaking above this region to the upside. So maybe unless you're reading that on a smaller time frame, maybe like on the 3 minute, to really see the detail of what was going on, especially once the market broke this region to the upside, and you can see that the big boys really came in within there. If there were any pullbacks, that could have been read and possibly attempted some buying opportunities, then that would have been good. You can see that the risk to reward would have been quite good. The buyers just really pushed the market to the upside. But in any case, even if you didn't get the trade, it's okay. Today is another day. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get something we can't read. So there are these three regions right here that we're going to be watching out for. So you can see that the market has come in within this region, tapped that area. Definitely, we do not want to be looking for buys when the price is holding beneath here. Hopefully, we can get some sort of a pullback. And I'm really hoping we can get, maybe during the London session, the market coming back in, somewhere within here, maybe get some rollover phase, within here. And if we could get the market somewhere around this area at around 3, especially after it's come back in, something we can read, turns around within this region, then I'll definitely be looking for the buys somewhere at least within this region right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. This is a bit of a long shot, but, like we always point out, when it comes to the Forex market, anything is possible. You could find the market pulling back all the way till within here during the London session. And you might find that maybe the big boys might actually need this price down here. So just be ready for it. In case they do need it, at least we will be ready for that. But also remember this is just, we're just analyzing and speculating to the best of our ability. But we're not prophets as far as the charts are concerned. The market has a mind of its own. So in case we don't get the pullback, coming in within here, then at least we will have to wait and see whether we can get a breach to the upside. If the market pulls back in within here, then maybe at 3-4.30, we could get a buy to resume with the movement up. But of course, my best bet and my best buy would definitely be down within here. I'd be more confident, let me put it that way, with the buy, especially once I do see that the opposite party has actually been invited. So remember, those are the guys that you're doing business with. When you end up losing money in Forex, that money goes to someone else's account. When you end up gaining, the money just doesn't show up from nowhere. Someone else lost money somewhere. So if the opposite party can be incited to come in and start thinking that it sells, that's good. Then at least we'll end up doing business with them. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Here you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting, hopefully, we could have gotten the pullback coming in within here. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Similar situation with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. You can see that the buyers really started off slowly. You'd have thought that maybe the sellers would have fast come in for the buyers to regroup, and possibly push the market up higher. But it's like they stopped so slow within this region. Then all of a sudden, you can see that the market picked up a lot of momentum. So it's something similar to what we've seen on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So you can see that the pullback came in later. But now grabbing the trades, Friday evening, you'd not have been too sure, but possibly could have been some good buys within here. But let's wait and see if we can get the market pulling back in within that region. So hopefully we can get the market coming back in within here. I think this might be a good region to actually look for the buys. So something more or less similar, to what we've discussed on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So let's see if we can get that happen. If not, then I guess we would really need to get a strong breach, of this area to the upside before we get a pullback. Something similar to this. You can see how the market really broke free of this area quite aggressively on the pullback. Let's say if it was at a favorable time when you could have been able to grab that trade. Even if you got the trade here, you'd have definitely been targeting, somewhere the high within this region. So we need a repeat of this situation right here, somewhere within here, where we get the market really breaking to the upside, a pullback coming in, something like this, something you can read. Then when the market turns around, then we can get the buy. So remember, the markets always repeat themselves. And that's the reason why you see that, we always make sure that we look back at what happened. I mean, even when we end up doing the currency pairs for review, it's because you can always learn something from what happened yesterday, because whatever happened yesterday is most probably going to be happening today. You know, the charts and how the markets move tend to repeat themselves. But unfortunately, the human mind doesn't understand those patterns. You know, they keep repeating themselves. And that's the reason why you find that if someone is losing, you're losing the exact same way every single time. But if you are to learn exactly what you did wrong and change it, then you can easily end up turning into wins and now just keep repeating, you know, the process over and over again. So moving on into the next one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. For this one, so this one is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get sales. So these are the three areas that we will be watching out for. So let's see if we can get the market pulling back in within here. It's okay even if the market starts to move to the downside. Remember, you shouldn't really be chasing those sells. So, I mean, even if the market were to go lower, it's okay. You can still find the market back in within here at around 3. So just make sure that you don't let FOMO get you. You know, the fear of missing out and you're hitting sales within here, because now you're chasing. Just let the market go. You can easily come back in within here. In any case, we've just broken this region to the downside. We don't yet have confirmation that the market has actually broken to the downside, because what can also easily end up happening is the market can easily come back into the upside and actually hold within here, and you could easily find the market coming back in, even all the way till within that region at the top. So we still do need a bit more confirmation. So just be a bit careful and just be a bit more patient. Let's see what happens, but definitely there could be some sales coming in from there or somewhere higher up. But remember the red SNR at the top. In case the market breaks that region to the upside and holds above it, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, for the USDs, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one as well. So you can see that the market has been coming down, which is good, but a pullback is what we need. Right now, based on where the market is, might not really be the best of areas to look for the sells. It's either the market breaks to the downside of this region, then on the pullback, we could try and resume with the sells. If not, then just give this buyers the benefit of doubt. You can see that the market came down within here aggressively. This was on Friday, and you can see that there are definitely some buyers who are holding, you know, these sellers hostage within here, and you do not really want to be hitting your sells within that region. You're better off looking for your sell higher up, you know, somewhere as close as possible within here, or maybe even somewhere within this region right here, which is like a major SNR, you know, that we're going to be watching out for. So let's see what happens somewhere at least within this region. Could even set an alert just at the tip of this area right here, because, you know, at least if the market could come in somewhere as close as possible within there, then I think there could be some good sells there. If the market breaks to the downside, then we'll just have to wait for the pullback to come in. And of course, remember the red SNR at the top. In case the market breaks that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So that's pretty much it for the USDs. So we're going to move on to the Canadian dollar pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. Clearly can't see the three regions that I had pointed out on Friday. So Friday morning price was somewhere here. Can't see that the market has just tapped back in within this area, come up, held within this region before the market started taking off to the upside quite slow before really picking up some steam to the upside, just like we've seen on the other New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar pairs. And you can see that this one was a strong breach. Unfortunately, the pullback couldn't come back in somewhere within here or somewhere close within here, because the breach, I think the buyers really came in quite aggressively. But you can see that somewhere within this region here, it seems that now it's like some sellers at least are fighting and they're starting to come into the market, which is good. So we'll just have to wait and see if we can get a favorable pullback. So the area that I do really have my eyes locked on is definitely the middle area, somewhere within this area right here. So hopefully if the sellers can actually push the market down somewhere back in within that region, then I think we could possibly get some good buying opportunities on this one. So watch out for that. Remember, in case the market breaks to the upside, you also can get some buys, but you'll definitely need to be a bit more patient, because you know, especially if the market breaks and just holds above here, it's not a good sign. It could easily end up being a trap. So if you jump in on the buys when the market is just holding within here, you could easily end up getting stopped out. We need a strong breach, where, you know, something like this, whereby the market really breaks to the upside. before the market pulls back in. But right now, based on where we are, you can definitely see that the buyers do seem like they're slowing down and the sellers are now starting to come in. So you could easily find that, during the London session, because, we're approaching the London session in the next 30 minutes, you could find that since the market is within a resistance area, it might actually end up reacting off that region, and you could possibly find the market somewhere within here, maybe at around 3-4:30, and you could find that maybe the buyers might actually work off this area at around that time. So you just need to be patient, but hopefully we do get that pullback. I think that one is definitely needed on that one, because also a lot of people, they're definitely looking to see whether they can get buying opportunities on that. And I'm very sure that you do know the stats. 95% are always sent into the gulag. So just let's see whether we can get some proper pullback on that one. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a proper pullback, within here or somewhere within here. The market was holding here, broke the upside, couldn't pull back in within that region. And you can see that it's continued to rally up during the Asian session. So this one is more or less similar to the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So we'll just have to wait and see whether we can get the pullbacks coming in, thinking maybe somewhere within this region here. At least if the market could come back in somewhere as close as possible within here, we could possibly try to see whether we could get some buys. So just make sure that you watch out for the times. Like we always point out, 10:03, 4:30, you could find some good opportunities then. And of course, no matter what you do, make sure that you always trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters. No matter how good a setup looks, just don't become overconfident. Things can easily end up going south. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one, new entrant on our watch list, watching out for sells. The market seems like it's breaching this region to the downside. The breach is not yet confirmed. We do need to see a bit more of the story within here. If the market holds within here, it's not a good sign. Could easily mean that the market could easily end up coming back in, maybe all the way till within there or somewhere within this region. But at least we do need to see the market possibly. Either the market could come back in within this region right here, attempt to get back, within this SNR. If it doesn't and actually fails, at that point in time, you could look for the sells. But you'll definitely need to watch out for this area, because if you do not, then it means that you could easily end up getting held hostage within this region. You could find that proper sells might come in maybe when the market breaks this region to the downside. So that's one scenario. The other scenario could be, at least even if the market moves a bit lower, you don't really need to feel any FOMO that you're not in on that trade, but just make sure that you wait for something you can read and more confirmation. Because if the market comes back and holds within here, there's a possibility price could come back in within here. And in any case, if it comes back within that area, this is a good area to look for the sells, because, like we keep on pointing out, the opposite party would have been incited, which means that, we have, some buyers to do business with, and the market will be coming back in within an SNR. And at least even if you get the sell there, at least your target should be locked in on somewhere within this area right here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Remember the red SNR, in case the market breaks above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, for the Canadian dollar pairs, we do have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is also a new entrant on our watch list. So we will be watching out to see whether we can get some sells on this one as well. So this one is not bad. You can see that the sellers have been coming down. When you look at how the market has been coming down, from Thursday, Friday, then we have some pullback that's coming in. The pullback is not coming in aggressively, which is good. And these are the things we like, to actually end up seeing. You can see that sequence of higher highs and higher lows, as the buyers are coming up, which is good. But the area that we're really watching out for is this region right here. There's an SNR somewhere within here. At least if we can get the buyers really slowing down within this area, sellers starting to come in, then definitely at that point in time, I will be looking for those sells to possibly come down to within this region. But also watch out for the region at the top. You definitely could find the market coming back in within there. I mean, if the big boys do need that price, then at least we should also be ready for that. But remember, that's the last region we will be trying to see whether we can get our selling opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Canadian dollar pairs. So we're going to move on to the euros, see what they have to offer. So we'll start off with the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities on this one. So these are the three areas we have mapped out that we could potentially try and see whether we could get some trades. You can see that the market is just now attempting to come back in within that region, but we'll definitely need to read more of the story of what happens within there, because the buyers just seem like they're just starting to get ready to come in. But hopefully we could get the market slowing down within this region right here. So we need those buyers coming in, maybe even attempting to take out these sellers, maybe tapping within that region. After the market broke to the downside, maybe some sort of a retest within that area, get some proper hold within there, then maybe we could possibly end up looking for the sells. You might find that maybe for the market to set itself up like this, it might need a whole session. So I mean, if it ends up happening during the US session, then that's okay. At least we should be ready for that. So watch out for that. So the next one, the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, new entrant on our watch list as well. We will be trying to see whether we can get some sells on this one as well. It doesn't look as good as the euro against the New Zealand dollar. This one is at the bottom where we do have the region of support. We either need the market breaking this region to the downside or moving far away from this region and as close as possible within this area right here. It might even come back in within this seller's region here. If it does, then that's okay. At least we just need to read and see if we can get a sign of the big boy coming in somewhere as close as possible within there. We will have, more room to play with to the downside as opposed to looking for selling opportunities here. So make sure you watch out for that. Remember the red SNR at the top. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case the market decides to come back in within there, then at least we will be ready for that. So the next one, this is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one on Friday, ideally the plan was to try see whether we could get some buys. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out, and this one actually broke when we were still here in the session. You can see that the market broke to the downside, something to do with the yens. I think they got a new leader or something, and the yens, the strength really came in. And this one, once it broke this region to the downside, there was definitely no trade for us. There was even nothing to look at after that, because in any case, even chasing the sells, I don't really think that was really the best of ideas. But today, of course, considering the fact that there's been more fundamentals for yens, the correlation is now working. When the move happened, you couldn't really confirm whether the market was actually going to take that direction. But the fact that you can't see that the market has even pulled back a number of times and actually sustained within, coming down inside to make that sequence of lower lows and lower highs, then at least at that point in time, there's no doubt that the big boys are actually pushing in that direction. So it's not just based on, the candles coming down and, your emotions being spiked, and all of a sudden you just start looking for sells. The only reason you're looking for sells is because you're seeing red bars on your charts. That's not how trading works. You need to be very objective in terms of how you approach the charts. So for this one for today, we will be trying to see whether we can get some sells. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. Similar situation with the rest of the yens that we've looked at, where we've seen that the market has broken the conservative region to the downside. So right now we have some sort of a pullback coming in. Let's see what happens within here. This pullback, especially if the market attempts to break to the upside, could read this story on a smaller time frame, like maybe on the 3-minute, to really get more detail of what happens within here. But remember, if the market breaks and holds above here, then I guess we possibly could end up having the market coming back in, within this region, and you could find that maybe at around 3, if the price is here, then hopefully we could get some good sales coming in. So those are the two scenarios we'll be watching out for. Of course, remembering the red SNR at the top, price can also come back in within that area. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we do have the euro against the Swiss franc. For this one on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. Friday, 9 a.m. to around 10. Price was here. We're expecting maybe to see some buyers coming in there. There was nothing. Price came down lower. You can't see that there was a real fight that was going on within here, but unfortunately, you can't see that there were no buyers who are there. It's like the buyers were just not interested in this one. And of course, once the market broke, held to the downside of this region, then unfortunately, at that point in time, the buying opportunities were definitely out. So for this one for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we're not looking for buys on this one anymore. We're now going the other way. We're looking for sells. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of that. So you can see some sort of a fight that's going on within here. Let's see. Keep our fingers crossed. If we can get, the buyers coming in and pushing the market, coming back in within this region where we do have sellers, and get some turnaround within this area, maybe even attempting to go higher than that, could easily end up finding a spike. The big boys looking for better prices higher than this. There's a possibility you could find a spike coming in within there. But at least if the market breaks to the downside, comes back in and holds within this area, then at least that could be a good selling opportunity to come down. So make sure that you watch out for that. Of course, remember the red SNR at the top. But in case the market does end up holding within here, I would suggest you possibly do not look for any selling opportunities within this area here. You might not really have too much room to move. And you also have the added risk, of the market spiking within this area, because there are quite a number of SNRs within this area that the market broke to the downside. And you can clearly see it's not really retested these areas. So you could jump in on a sell here. What you stand to gain is not really that much, but you actually stand to lose more than to gain on that trade. So best suggest for this one, unless if the market breaks to the downside of this area, I think much safer sells might be somewhere within here, as opposed to possibly trying to jump in somewhere within this region, either down here or somewhere within that area. So we'll have to wait and see which option the market actually gives us. So that's pretty much it for the Euro pairs. So we're going to move on to the GBP pairs and mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, but almost looks similar to the Euro against the New Zealand dollar. So I think some good correlation is also happening amongst the New Zealand dollar pairs. So for this one, this is what the plan is going to be looking like. So let's see if we can get the market coming back in within here. If we do, you can see that buyers are now starting to push the market to the upside. There's a possibility and a high probability price will come back in within here. Reason being, the market is trending. It's broken this region to the downside. A retest is more or less expected within that area to the downside. So if we end up getting that, pullback coming in within this region here, then at least we could possibly try and see whether we could get some sells, somewhere within that area to come down with the market and see how much more lower we could go with the market. But you definitely will need to manage your trade somewhere within this region. If you get a pullback within here, you could possibly end up adding. Like I pointed out, it's in some sort of a trend. But also remember the region at the top, a bit of a long shot. But in case the market does need that price, then at least you should be ready for it. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one as well, we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So make sure that you take note of these three regions right here. These are the three areas we will be watching out for. The New Zealand dollar has already started the pullback. Remember, even when we're looking at Euro and ZD and Euro AUD, Euro and ZD is already going up. Similar situation with GBP and ZD. Euro AUD and GBP AUD, consider these ones are more or less hanging around here, but the plan is still the same. So, I mean, it's either the market comes back in within this region here for us to look for the sells. If not, then we definitely need a breach of this region to the downside. So I know we always give these options, and the reason why we always have these options ready is because we're very fluid when it comes to trading. We're not rigid, and you should never be rigid. It's never a matter of us trying to impose our opinions on the charts. You need to be very fluid, and you're always ready. If the market does this, then I'm going to do this. If the market does something else, then I'm also ready for it. Then I will also end up doing something else. So it's not really a matter of reacting. You're taking action, and you already know, you have a blueprint of exactly what you're going to be doing if the market does something, so that you're not really caught off guard if things start to move, or if things actually don't end up working out. You're also not surprised. It's something that you were expecting. In case it happens, you're good. So you can see, like for this one, on Friday, we're expecting buys. The market came down. The moment it breached this region to the downside, based on the plan we had, we already knew it breaks beneath this region to the downside, definitely there are no buying opportunities. No need for actually looking at these charts for the remainder of the day. To have just actually been, a waste of time on the charts. So you can see that, unfortunately, this one broke to the downside. Today, we're going to be looking for sells. So right now, this is the plan. If the market comes up and breaks above this region to the upside, it's definitely no trade for us, but at least we do have these other areas where we're expecting the pullbacks, also including this region right here. So similar situation with the rest of the years. The market has broken to the downside. The pullback is coming in. The pullback is not, I mean, the breach wasn't that deep. Would have expected hopefully the market to come in lower, but it's okay. You can actually read, or if you can actually read what's going on within here. If the market attempts to break to the upside current and actually sustains to the downside, then I guess we could find that these sellers, who push the market to the downside quite aggressively, they could easily end up coming back in, and we could find, the market actually going to the downside. So let's see what happens there. But my best bet would be, at least if we can get the market coming back in, within this region right here, actually end up inciting quite a number of buyers to actually come into the market, and also stop out a good number of sellers who are late. Because right now, based on the fact that the market has been coming down, or after this dip to the downside, definitely lots of people are definitely looking to see whether they can get sales. All those late sellers will definitely need to be stopped out. So when they're being stopped out and they're being incited to jump into the opposite side, then at least that could also create an opportunity for us. So also watch out for the region at the top. In case the market comes in there, then at least we will be ready for that. So last but not least, for the currency pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. So aggressive conservative, semi-aggressive conservative here. Friday morning price was here. Wasn't a good time to look for the buys. Were within a seller's region. We didn't expect the sellers were going to react that aggressively, but they did. But we knew there was going to be a reaction off there because we were at the sellers. The buyers within here had nothing to say. And of course, we couldn't look for the buys. Then you can see that within here, there was a real fight that was going on. So the sellers stepped in within this region quite aggressively. The buyers really struggled to pick the market up, but you definitely can't see that there were no big boys who were in the market. And eventually you can see that the market broke to the downside. At least if it came back up and actually held within here, maybe that could have been a buy. Because, that last spike sometimes is actually the last. It's like the kicks of a dying horse. It's like that last kick that they need, before they actually give up. So unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And you can see that the market broke to the downside. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So we do have the semi-aggressive conservative somewhere within there, and we do have the conservative somewhere within this region here. So right now we're within a good region. We just need to see what happens within this area here. You can get a sign, of the big sellers really showing up within this area. I think we could possibly end up getting some good selling opportunities, maybe even attempting to break beneath this region to the downside, but definitely you will need to manage your trade within here. So also watch out for the red SNR at the top. I mean, if the sellers don't really end up coming in within here, could find the sellers coming in within that region there. But there's also an alert that we've set somewhere within there, because you can see that there was this push of the seller coming down. If the market doesn't come in all the way till the top, then there's a possibility it might actually end up stopping somewhere within here, and you could get some sellers coming in. But of course, to get that sell, you also really need to be a real sniper on the charts. So let's see what happens. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of that. So we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities, and you can see that all of them are still on the same side. So we're going to start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, on Friday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out, an illustration of what to expect. The market was somewhere here. I did point out that maybe you could have expected some sort of a spike within here. It did happen. Market held within this region. You can see that the buyers came in. Unfortunately, they couldn't get all the way till within this region. It was an area of interest, especially when you look at it from the bigger time frame. So there's still a possibility price might still come back in within that area. You can see that the market has come in a bit lower. We'll just have to wait and see if we could get the buyers possibly regrouping within this region, maybe come up a bit much stronger, take out this level, and also maybe come up all the way till within that region there. But remember that for, the NAS 100, the Dow Jones, gold and silver, we're always fully technical on them. So for as long as we're holding above the red SNR, then the buyers should be to look for those buying opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens. That means that even if the market were to break beneath this region to the downside, don't be too quick in terms of trying to look for yourselves. Wait and see what happens. If the market doesn't hold to the downside of this region on the pullback and you don't get that confirmation, then you should actually not be looking for those sells. So if the market comes back up, because it might need, that spike, maybe go lower than this level right here, incite more sellers to come in, so that the buyers can actually end up getting the volume and the liquidity that they need, to actually push that market to the upside. So that's why they see if we can get something like that. But of course, remember, you will still need to manage your trade within this region right here. There's that region at the top, but right now you also can't ignore the fact that price has turned off this area 2 times. That means that, on the 3rd time, you still need to watch out because, in case the market doesn't get all the way till the top, at least you will be, and you should be ready to actually manage your trade within that region. So watch out for that. And that's pretty much it, the plan for the NAS 100. So moving on into the Dow Jones. So for this one, on Friday, we're also trying to see whether we could get buys. Can't see the 3 regions right there. So Friday morning price was here. We did want to see the market break to the upside, pull back in within here and actually move to the upside. That's exactly what the market did. So you can't see that within here, price went up, came down, bounced off this area, although this was quite fast. You also possibly needed to read that on a smaller time frame, but you can't see that was at exactly 4:30, which was during the New York Stock Exchange open. And after that, you can see that the market really took off to the upside quite aggressively. So for this one, for today, we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get some buys. So watch out for this region here. For as long as we're holding above that region, then the buyers is still to look for buying opportunities. In as much as the sellers have come down, and you can see that they came down also quite aggressively, tapped within this region, you can see that the buyers retaliated. And right now, hopefully the sellers, since they look like they're slowing down, that's a good thing. But remember, we still do need to see the buyers show up within this area. So you could also find that maybe there's a possibility the market might literally end up spiking to the downside. In case it does, at least just make sure that you watch out, to wait and see whether you can get that confirmation. In case the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then remember at that point in time, our buyers will actually end up switching and we'll start looking for sells. So moving on into the next one, silver. Now for silver, we're also trying to see whether we could get some buys. These are the 3 areas that we had pointed out. Remember this setup that I did end up giving you guys, and I told you that if the market comes back in and holds within here, give it time, then at least you could look for the buying opportunities within that region right there. And I pointed out that you did need to see the buyers, when they were coming up, as much as the market was holding here, it was fine, but you wanted to see that once the market starts to move to the upside, remember I pointed out that we did need to see this level get taken out quite fast, and you can see that the buyers pushed up within that area quite aggressively. And at least also remember that I pointed out we do need to see a hold, of the market to the upside of this region. If it's to the downside, then you might need to scratch because the market could easily end up coming back in. So you can see that the market broke above this region to the upside, held above there, and you can see that at 3, the market did actually continue moving to the upside. But in any case, that was the top. So this one gave a nice and easy, nice 1:2.69. Which wasn't too bad. Can't see that the market was back in here at 4:30, during the New York Stock Exchange open, and the market did actually end up coming down. So right now we're on this pullback, definitely something that needs to be read afresh, because the setup that we're looking at on Friday, that one is gone. So right now the sellers have come in again. So it's a matter of reading what they're doing. So right now the best game plan for this one is the levels are the same, which is okay. Hopefully we can get the market breaking above here aggressively and we get a hold to the upside. If that ends up happening, there's even a possibility we could even end up breaking, above this area to the upside. Reason being, this has definitely incited a lot of sellers, within this region right here. So many guys, maybe even who are still attempting buys here, definitely stopped out. When they switch biases, then that's a good thing. We just need to see that last strong buyer come in, market holds within here, and possibly we could take off to the upside. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is if the market comes in lower and maybe it still needs better prices than this, then it's okay. If that happens and maybe the big boys do end up showing up, then we could possibly also end up getting the buying opportunities working off this area right here. But remember the red SNR, for as long as we're holding above that, then the bias is still to look for those buying opportunities. It's only once the market breaks and holds beneath to the downside. Remember, it's not, don't end up taking breakout trades whereby the first candle that breaks to the downside, you're already in. those selling opportunities, make sure that you get a bit more confirmation, the hold. And that's the reason why we keep on talking about the breach and the hold. The hold is very important. If you don't get that, then the market probes within there and you're already in on the wrong direction. You're definitely going to be paying, for your wrong entries. So just make sure that you watch out for that. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, the bias was to try and see whether we could get buys. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So Friday morning price was here. We wanted to either see the market tap back in within this region to look for buys. The market came back in, just tapped within that area, went up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all the way till the top, but you can see that there was this scenario right here. Or maybe if the market broke to the upside and held above, we could have looked for more buying opportunities. So you can see that during the US session, well, just to clear this, you can see that during the US session, the market broke to the upside, but unfortunately just couldn't hold within this region right here. And you can see that the market came down, even breached, beneath this region to the downside. So for this one, we've adjusted the levels slightly. So we're still going to be trying to see whether we can get buys. The reason why we are still looking for buys and we've adjusted the levels slightly, and I'll go up to the 1 hour time frame so that you can get a bit more context of what's going on. The level that we're looking at on the 15 was actually here. But when you actually end up going up a higher time frame, because remember, especially like for gold, considering the fact that we've never really been here before. This is the first time we're here. So it's also a bit of a mess. It's a bit complicated in terms of trying to figure out the levels. But when you look at the 4 hour and how the market has been moving, if we were to adjust this slightly lower, you can actually see that true SNR could literally be here. The market has actually probed within this area once. When it broke to the upside, you can see that it sat on that SNR quite well. So based on that, because it's always good to adjust your levels also based on what's happening on the bigger time frame. That's the reason why we've moved the level just slightly lower, because you could easily end up starting to look for sells based on the 15 and say that the market has actually broken this region to the downside, but you actually don't realize that you're actually getting into a head-on collision with the big boys on the 4 hour time frame, and you definitely do not want that. So that's the reason why we've adjusted this one. We've put it somewhere within this region, and I think this could be the correct area and the correct position. So you could easily find the market still attempting to break beneath this region to the downside, which is okay. But at least the safety net that we do have is that we know the big boys, even on the 4 hour, the big buyers are definitely sitting within here. And you could easily find that the market could easily end up taking off from within here, coming back in within this region, if not higher. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But of course, that means that also on the downside, if these buyers are actually not interested now, at least within this region, and we get the market breaking, to the downside of this region, then at least at that point in time, we could actually end up starting to look for those selling opportunities. So just make sure that you do end up taking note of that. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So for the guys who came in late, feel free to take a screenshot of that. So let's look at some questions or comments on the Q&A. So I see Alan Rono there saying, hey, John, thanks a lot. Karibu sana, Alan. Always good to see you here. Claire, you're saying thanks a lot. Karibu sana as well. I see Mark Checker there saying, hey, John, all these analysis you do share is taught in the masterclass. Let me say the masterclass is the foundation of it. Yeah, in terms of because what the masterclass is basically a foundation on how to end up reading the charts. But there's more to it, and that's the reason why we have the amplified program, and that's also the reason why we also have the sniper program. So when we come here, we're applying more or less a lot of things that are scattered across the programs that we have. So I wouldn't say that if you do the masterclass, you'll have everything, because the masterclass at least will help you in terms of how to possibly end up reading the pullbacks, starting to get an understanding of how the Forex market works, and also an understanding of how us guys end up viewing the charts. So it's more or less like giving you that good foundation that you need, so that now when we come for the amplified, now we teach you more in terms of we usually categorize trading into 3 aspects, and we call it DTM: direction, timing, money management. So we get more into direction. How can you figure out what direction you should be taking on any particular currency pair, how to end up really looking at the fundamentals, things such as correlation, Then, of course, now the timing. How do you end up now reading the pullback properly? How do you end up timing your entry? Because getting the direction correct and getting the timing correct are two different things. A lot of people know that the market is coming down. That is fine. Where they end up getting the sell, they get it at the wrong place and they still end up getting stopped out. So you see, we'll need to end up correcting your timing and show you how do you actually end up timing your entry as well. How do you manage your money? Risk to reward psychology. So all that is in the Amplified program, which is a 4-week program. So at least there, even in terms of how to end up coming up with these levels, that one we also do a lot of practice on the Amplified, right? So it's like going from primary to secondary. So masterclass is like primary, then there is secondary, which is the Amplified. Then there is university now, the Afriforex sniper program. So now that one is teaching you how to become even way more professional. How do you get even much better entries? How do you end up maximizing on your risk to reward, based on now getting those tight stop losses, getting the proper and bigger lots so that you can actually end up making more out of it. So it's like, let me say the sniper program is more like profit maximization. So, you can't maximize profits you're not making. So we have to take you from losing, stop the bleeding, get you into getting some profits, then show you how to end up maximizing on those profits. So that's how it works. So not everything is in the masterclass, but at least it will give you the foundation that you definitely need. So, and I think even the links for everything, definitely, I think should be on the chat box. Maybe Mitch can put them there for the Amplified, the masterclass. Definitely can't find that. But also, even if you go to our website, you definitely can't find that information, especially if you go to the Academy section. You can find all the information. Of course, on our homepage, we do have them here on the programs, but if you go to the Academy section, especially if you click on any particular program, then you definitely can end up finding more information on it, what you can expect, but also make sure and feel free to give us a call in case you do need further information or further help. So I guess that's pretty much it. So I'm not really seeing anything else there or anything pending. So I want to thank guys so much for making the time to be here with us. We don't take your time for granted. Let's see how this week goes. September has been a great month. Tomorrow we're getting into October. So we will see how the new month does end up going. And of course, hopefully, even as we get into the last quarter of this year, hopefully we end up finishing this year strong. So with that, happy trading, guys. And bye for now. May the peace be with you. May God bless you.